Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the Economic Times Digital Roundtable, Power of Active Intelligence, Transcending Collaboration Beyond the Last Mile, powered by Click. Information is the oil of the 21st century, and analytics is the combustion engine, said Peter Sondergaard. Companies looking to breach the veil of uncertainty and weaving resilience into their DNA for future shocks are focusing on gathering more data to unlock new revenue options. This data has enormous potential for helping a firm thrive and for assisting executives in making real-time decisions. However, this can only happen if this data is used to its full potential in order to generate useful insights. And business intelligence can prove to be more useful in these tumultuous times if it is relayed in a real-time manner. Active intelligence seems to be the answer. It provides analytics-ready data along with the most updated information in real time. With an amalgamation of the data at rest and data in motion, it represents the pulse of the data, providing business insights and creating an intelligent data to analytics pipeline. Businesses can prepare themselves for unexpected situations in future by using active intelligence, as it can help in anticipating the upcoming trends. It provides more detailed insights thanks to AI-powered analytics. Active intelligence also represents the business moment by adding business logic to analytics-ready data, transforming it into business-ready data and enabling collaboration among all data personas. In today's roundtable, we have a stellar lineup of seasoned experts who will deliberate upon unleashing the power of active intelligence in today's data-driven demands. They'll shed light on how active intelligence enables businesses to not only outperform the competition, but also to adapt and respond quickly to changing situations. They will also touch upon topics like the status of active intelligence adoption, how to tackle business problems using active intelligence, how data pipelines enable quick decisions, and business outcomes that active intelligence may help you accomplish, among other topics as well. For the Economic Times Digital Roundtable, Power of Active Intelligence, Transcending Collaboration Beyond the Last Mile, powered by Click. I'm delighted to welcome the eclectic speaker panel. Azain Ghani, Group CIO, MJ International and Penguin Sportswear Private Limited. Dr. Ajanta Ratnayaka, Assistant General Manager, ICT Regional Development Bank. Gaurav Jasoria, Group Director, Valuable One PLC. Nidesh Fernando, Manager, Digital Banking, Commercial Bank of Ceylon PLC. The session will be moderated by Charlie Farah, Director Solutions and Value Acceleration, Click. Over to you, Charlie.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. As you know, my name is Charlie Farah, and I'm extremely delighted to join you today. I'm an ex-customer of Click's, now assisting organizations across Asia Pacific with their data and analytics transformation journeys, providing them support, solutions, and industry expertise for all their data, BI, and analytics leads. So thank you for joining us today in today's discussion on maximizing the full potential of data and analytics capabilities within your organization. I'm looking forward to getting everyone's personal perspectives and point of views, and most importantly, to encourage learning from one another, no matter where you might be on that journey of analytics adoption and maturity. I think we can all agree that this has been a very disruptive 18 months with the pandemic. For me, it's been a year of working from home with 2 kids running around, running customer workshops virtually, participating in great events like today's. While we have reduced face-to-face interaction, the pandemic has made the use of digital platforms essential as the primary means of interaction, and as a result, data has just exploded over this period. At Click, we have seen a tremendous uptake in the use of analytics across corporations globally. from retail to manufacturing, banking to insurance, from governments to healthcare, all accepting that the importance of data analytics to resilience and rebounding out of this pandemic and this crisis. The need to close the gap between data and outcomes has never been so critical, with more and more agencies around the world adopting active intelligence, an approach based on continuous intelligence from real-time, up-to-date information. It establishes an intelligent data pipeline with dynamic business content and logic designed to trigger immediate actions. Now, to give you a better idea of what I mean by active intelligence, I'll quickly provide an overview, and just bear with me as I share my screen. So according to Professor Michael Wade from IMD, he states that in order for organizations to transcend to a collaboration beyond the last mile, companies need to develop what he calls a digital business agility. And digital business agility is made up of three steps, three main categories or pillars, if you like. It's about making informed decision-making, making the best decision possible in any given situation, being able to execute fast, carry out its plans quickly and effectively, and having a hyper awareness of your business and all its operations, being able to detect and monitor changes in your business environment as they arise. And to do that, we need real up-to-date active systems. Now, traditional BI systems and what we're used to use pre-configured curated data sets. They lack a bit of a governed and end-to-end data pipeline. So we're bringing things in silo and often seldom and cumbersome channels. And they're really designed to inform. So looking in a review mirror, looking to see what happened, and not really to compel any action or what's likely to happen and what best steps are to take with that data. Whereas active intelligence is really about using real-time, up-to-date information. So as the information is updated in your source system, that is replicated and transforms to your data warehouse or your cloud environment, wherever it may sit, and then make its way into a data analytics dashboard or an output that allows people to take action. It establishes the intelligent analytics data pipeline. And it's really about designing those systems and those databases and those dashboards to trigger immediate action from your user base. Because imagine now the world is made up of so many different business moments. What if you're a company, a very competitive company, whether it's in retail or manufacturing, and you fail to pick up product dissatisfaction on social media channels, so derivative data of social media channels, so you're not able to take immediate action to rectify that. What if you go through and you got unprecedented customer churn and it goes unreported, so you realize that your customers are leaving to your competitors in a higher volume? Or if there's a change in ordering trends from a key goods supplier that's going to impact your bottom line and your ability to be able to manufacture and produce your goods on a timely basis? And what if you're unable to determine the strategic deployment of your skilled staff to minimize your response times and you realize where you should base your workforce or your services across the organization? So really, it's about using that, that analytics maturity model, shifting that to a way of looking at it, instead of looking at it prescriptive and descriptive and predictive, looking at it in a different way now, where we're bounding on top of those foundations of that old maturity model, to look at it into, rather than looking at it into passive, looking at pre-configured data, no governed data pipeline, no action triggers. We want to move to reactive, augmented, and active intelligence data pipelines, where we know that the data is in real time and it's going to be business ready to allow up-to-date information and up-to-date action across your organization. And we do that here in Click by our active intelligence messaging. It's really about being able to free your data. We find the raw data in your source systems, wherever they may be and however many they may be. We free that data with our data integration platform, help you find it and compose it in a way that's going to be easily governed and understandable by your workforce. We then put a data analytics layer on top of it to help people understand and consume that information. And then we couple that off with a data literacy as a service, so people can then understand the data that they're seeing and reviewing to then take action on it. And that informed action is going to lead to what we call active intelligence. So that takes me to just a quick overview of active intelligence. But now to provide some real world context, We're delighted to have this esteemed panel joining us today to share some of their own personal experiences across their organisations. So I'm going to start now by asking Azain the first question. Azain, do you want to give a brief introduction to yourself and then highlight the program of work that your team is currently undertaking at MJ Penguin?
Hi, I'm Azain. I'm CIO for MJ and Penguin Group. So we are an apparel manufacturing organization working across 5 locations. We largely export to Europe. We do a little bit to the US as well, but the majority of it is to Europe. And since we were in the apparel space, we were looking for a proper solution. So we first went with an ERP, then we went with a BI. So we've been using a BI Click for the last 6 to 7 years. So the base is the ERP, but how we make the decisions and the drive comes through Click or the BI solution that we currently have. If you look at some of the dashboards, I think across the group, we started off with a finance dashboard. I think now we basically cover every department in the organization, from marketing, supply chain, inventory, production, all the way through your packing process, including your finance. So now I think we've stabilized around 30 to 35 dashboards, which runs the organization. So just to give you a quick review.
Excellent, thanks. Thank you for that overview. Now to Nadesh, can you give us a brief introduction to you and your role, and then highlight the program of work that your team is currently undertaking at the Commercial Bank of Ceylon pertaining to data analytics?
Thank you, Charlie. As you said, I'm Nidesh Fernando. I'm from one of the largest private banks in the country, Sri Lanka. I'm from Commercial Bank. I'm working as a manager digital banking. I've been working in several disciplines, and now I've been settling into digital banking for about now 4 or 5 years. Actually, the data, when it comes to data, our core banking is AS400. Now with the AS400, we are doing analytics with data, with the inbuilt solution. We have the queries, and from the queries we were going into Excel and those things. Like it was a very hard and very resource consuming process that we were adapting. And then now we have gone into a BI tool, and we have come up with Click, and now we are slowly transforming our journey towards to the BI tool. And yes, we are in the process of walking towards the future with data analytics and AI.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And for you, over to you, Ajanta. Are you able to give a brief introduction on yourself and your background, your work experience, and to highlight some of the data analytics initiatives at the Regional Development Bank?
Hi, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I joined this bank recently, about 2 years back, 1.5 years back, and my role is to support the digitalization process of the bank. Currently, the bank has an inbuilt BI tool where the data is mostly getting from the core banking system, and basic reports will be generated regional wise, branch wise, and so on. But not it doesn't have much graphical interface at the moment. So mostly the numbers. So we were asked Click to do a POC in our bank, and they did a fantastic job down here. And what we need is the top management, including the board of directors, are bit busy people. So what we are planning is to have a graphical interface where the problems like color light kind of solution, where if everything is in order, the green light will be there. Anything, if you cautious, then it will be amber light, and then any problems will be red light. So when they see at a glance in the main dashboards, they know where if anything wrong or not. So accordingly, they can drill down the problems and see what exactly. Currently, we don't have much experience click because they did the POC only, and we are in the process of procurement the tools. So it's very important thing. It's whatever the organization, banks are very important institutions in the economy of the country, and the online real-time information and historical information analysis is very important in decision making. So our bank has identified this need, and we are working on that matter, especially in this fourth industrial revolution with the pandemic. Most of the staff cannot come to the office. So what they want is this information. We can't have people to do data entry kind of work. So the system should capture the data from the point of origination, where then it will graphically represent in the dashboards. That's what our plan, and we are very eager to work with this BI tool in future. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent, thank you. And lastly, over to you, Gaurav. And your role is slightly different because your role covers a conglomerate of businesses and different operations under Valuebell One. But can you give a brief description or an overview about your role and how it fits in with Valuebell One and how you incorporate data analytics into your operations?
Sure. So I'm Gaurav. I work as a group director for business strategy and digital transformation across multiple group companies. So I work with all those companies which are under Chairman Mr. Damika Pereira, and that cuts across both Valuebell One and Hades. I look after the business strategies and digital transformations in general for wherever there's a need for interventions. So what my primary role is to figure out the proactive ways of improving the companies, whether it's an intervention through the people, processes, or technologies, which could lead to an upliftment of the both bottom and the top lines. So from the perspective where we started with the digital transformations long back, which has really kept our companies in a very fast pace towards a changing world. From the perspective of how we analyze and use the data across our operations. So I think the data has become truly the bloodline for our group operations. We use the data for analyzing our processes, operations, and the performance. We use the data for comparing us with ourselves of the yesteryears. And we also benchmark ourselves with the world's best companies. So we always try to see who the best in this market in the specific processes or the functions are. We try to figure out if we had to reach that level, then what do we have to do about that? So the data gives us a benchmarking with respect to true comparisons where we stand versus the best of the world's companies. That helps us in identifying the issues, and then we figure out the ways and the means to improve the processes that could cut across multiple areas. And we will talk more about it as we move forward. But then the idea is that once we figure out the gaps and the inefficiencies in our businesses, then we actually enact on ensuring that those things are ironed out. And post that, we continuously monitor the key performance indicators to see whether we are on the right track. So that has been a general strategy for all our group companies. The only thing we talk about is data. Any area which we talk about is what is going on through the data. We don't talk simple words, right? So I think that has given a very good landing spot to us even before pandemic had hit us, because we were absolutely ready for most of our businesses who had started on the journey of this data analytics to the data sciences to advanced AI. We had already started on these paths, and we had dealt with multiple areas. So it was actually a much better position we were in when COVID had hit us, which had given us a solid performance base. So we'll talk more about it as we move on. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that overview. So now let's bring it to the entire group for some dialogue, and I'd like to start with Azain, if I may. So Azain, can you share some examples of how your organization has used data to potentially redesign some products or business processes for the better?
Okay, thanks, Charlie. So if you look at the manufacturing organization, manufacturing process, like I said, we have close to about 30 to 35 dashboards that we've developed across the group. So if I take a couple of examples, we have something where we have a production hourly tracking dashboard where we have data which is tracked on an hourly basis and put in front of the operations managers who actually review it and then make certain decisions based on that hourly tracking. That's one example that we can give. We've done similar ones for the inventory where your stores visually, they have dashboards where they know what are the pending GRNs, how much goods are to be received, what are the pending POs to be coming in, which is also covered under inventory. I'm just quickly running through a couple of examples. So moving on, I think we can even say our marketing is driven on dashboards which are used especially through ClickView. Also, we have supply chain. So like I think Ajanta mentioned, it is a very visual supply chain dashboard where if your POs are pending, it would show as red for your styles because it's a very detail-centric apparel. The way you manage the business is you need to go into details to ensure the last button, the fabric, and all of these are in-house. So when you have to manage a lot of data, it becomes very difficult. But if you have a strategic dashboard where it is rolled up to a position where you have red, green, and amber, or whatever the color schemes that you go with, it's very easy to manage and it becomes a very operational kind of driving dashboard. Okay, so those are some of the operational driving dashboards. We've done similar dashboards even for HR indicators, where we know the attendance, we know the people who are pending on doing certain things, which also show up. So if you take it as a general broad categorization, we categorize the BI tools in strategic, operational, are the main two categories that we have. So it could be a strategic dashboard, it would be more analytical, where it would be reviewed by a very high end. But when it comes to operational, it's more on the ground where, for example, a stores manager will be able to go in, identify what needs to be fixed for that day, for that week, and do those changes. So just to share a few examples.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Azay. That's really, really good insight there. Nidesh, similar question for you. Where are you today in your data transformation journey, and how deep into that journey are you, and how much further do you think you have to go? Do you think it will ever end, or you'll just keep evolving and adding and building on that foundation?
Yeah, Charlie. So your question, I'll just break it up to three parts now. Where are we? So what to say, the data, as I told you earlier, we were doing our data analytics, and we are doing, but it's not in a structured way. But recently, that after this acquisition of the BI tool, we have now got into a more deep sense of data analytics, and to tell you now, we knew what we want, but we didn't have a right tool. Now we have tools, and we are looking into BI tools, and we are looking AI to AI analyticals and this predictive, all those things we are looking into. And the good part I can see as a big bank in the country, and also with more than about 4,000 staff, and the bank has identified, and it has taken all this data and data analytics to the corporate planning and the future planning, where data has become, as Azay clearly said, it has become, and Gaurav also said, it has become the drive of the business, even for the banks. So data today, the data is one of the main pillars that will drive you to the future. So the next thing is that we have the skills, and we have the knowledge, and we know what we want with the right tool and right guidance. I think even a bank definitely, as a service organization, go for a long way. So to tell you how deep we are into data, as I told you, yes, even though we were doing data analytics in the Excel formats and all those presentation formats, all those, but now we have started about, as I said, about 2-3 years ago only, we have started going into deep. So it's as you said, Charlie, it's a never-ending process. And again, like you say, how much we want to go, we don't know actually how much and where can we end up. I don't think we will be ending up in anywhere, but because in future it will be the huge data and AI. AI analytics, making decisions through data, making decisions through AI. As Gaurav clearly says, like the organizations have started about 4 or 5 years ago. They have started with data. Now they are making real strategic decisions from data. Now, yes, the banks and all the other companies in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a little bit slow on this, grabbing that and digesting that data is the way forward. Now, still now at the moment, most of the banks we have identified data is the way forward. The customer, what the customer wants, where the customer is going, and posing everything, the Facebooks and the WhatsApp and all those things. So grabbing all these things and analyzing and creating and giving identifying what the customer really wants, it will be the way forward. But as I said, with coupled with AI, and we don't know actually where the limits are, bounded. There are a lot of no boundaries at the moment that we can do with data and AI.
Yeah, that's good. That's exciting as well, I guess, for you. It keeps you on your toes as the GM of digital transformation.
Yes.
Gaurav, now to you. You touched on before. You said that data and analytics data is like a bloodline for you guys in Balibel One. Can you expand on some of that and maybe give some examples of how you've used it to improve operations, or maybe even reimagine new processes for things that could be done better, and any learnings you've come from those experiences?
Charlie, we started on this journey of using the data quite some time back. What we had realized was that without the use of a proper data, we won't be able to take decisions very promptly. And we have been monitoring that if you don't have the right kind of data quality in your organization, you'd end up losing a lot of money. So for example, US currently loses around $3.1 trillion annually just because of the poor data quality, right? And there's a tons of data being generated every second. So for example, Google has 40,000 searches every second. You have 65 billion messages being sent daily on WhatsApp. So what we see altogether is there's a huge amount of data which is being available, but the potential of that data to be analyzed is just around 37% of the entire data, which businesses could actually potentially utilize. So what we did was that, we started on this journey to understand how we can improve our processes or the businesses in general. I'll take one of the examples. So in one of our retail focused companies, what we realized was that we were losing sales purely because we were not having the right products at the right time in the right location, right? Now, initially, so I would say a few years back, we did not have the right quality of data, and we were not able to even figure out where we are losing money. Then we ensured that the data pipelines are set, we get the information in much quicker and much easier fashion, which is understandable by the end users. And then we started analyzing that why we were losing sales. And then what we realized was that because of the business model, how it was set up from ordering to the fulfillment of the particular product line, we realized that a lot of times the right kind of products didn't even reach the stores. And that part of the information we analyzed by using a lot of historical data, moving averages. We figured out that the fast movers are not available in the stores. A lot of high potential products which are high value are not at the right places where they could be sold. So things like that triggered us to think that why are we doing this? What can we do to make it better? So the issue of the data, which led us to understand why we were losing sales, triggered our entire change in the backend in terms of the supply chain. We started focusing on how we could do auto replenishments for the products into the stores as soon as they are getting sold. Why can't we just immediately replenish it automatically through the systems? So that led to a change into our processes for the ordering. That led to a quick change onto our WMS, the warehouse management system. That led to us understanding that how much should we really be sending to our stores. So for that, we started using data sciences to figure out that what could be the potential forecast for this particular SKU in this location, given the demography of a particular market or the particular area. Whether can we sell more for a higher value product? Can we sell more of a lower value product? So we started using data sciences to figure out the real forecasting, and we went up to 95% of the accuracy. We started when we used to do pretty manually earlier, which was 60-65% accurate. Suddenly the accuracy jumped up to 95% using the data sciences. What that led to was that we automatically started selling the right products in the right locations, because our customers were coming and seeing a lot more product ranges in our stores. This led to another optimization for us on the transports and logistics, because now we knew how much we have to every day order, but then now we were incurring a lot of costs onto our transportation, which led us to think that how do we optimize our routes, which could reduce our cost base on the transport side. So every single area started getting impacted, because what we started as a problem, which was a lost sale, that started triggering into the multiple impacts across the areas. And each area, we developed specific, KPIs, which we are monitoring on a regular basis just to figure out if we are going in the right direction. And that led to a complete change and overhaul for all the backend processes, which, of course, supported by the human intelligence. But then the primary work of humans was to act on to actual physically moving the products, rather than only figuring out what's going on in the data or actually in the market, because now that data was coming out to us very, very quickly. So just one of the examples that how the data is completely rechanging and revamping the entire value chain of our organization in general across. And one of the key learnings which I felt from let's say, just take this example. I think whenever such overhauls happens, I think the biggest thing is that the leadership should be very energetic and agile in incorporating and understanding the impact what data is bringing. A lot of times what I've seen in a lot of companies is that sometimes leadership is not enthusiastic enough. They are very comfortable with whatever they have. But then as long as you understand there's a potential value which the data is bringing it to you, and you are keen to make sure that you make it work, so that if the top leadership is aligned, then it automatically percolates down to the the lowest level in the organization. And then everybody starts getting aligned to improving the efficiencies in the processes. So I think that's a huge shift in what data is bringing to our every single day operations across the board, and which has really shown us amazing results. We can talk a lot about it, but then just to give a glimpse of it is, in some of the organizations, we have moved from 1x to 100x in this COVID times, literally, purely because we were ready at the right time.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think you gave some brilliant examples, and I think you touched on a key point there, having that executive sponsorship or that executive buying, to really filter that message down, support the use of data across the organization, make it a really data-first culture, and really embed that, ingrain that across all operations and all discussions, which is really important. So great work there. Lastly, to Ajanta, any examples of how your organization at the Regional Development Bank has used data to redesign products or business processes for the better? I know you mentioned you're still early on that journey, but any past examples of how, or any ideas of what you want to do with the data now moving forward?
Yes, we have some experience. The initial system what we have developed here in the bank is bank is a in-house system where it gives the numbers, how many accounts are opened, and like basic information, but it's not enough for decision making. Especially our bank is a development bank, not a ordinary bank. So the mandate for our bank is how is our contribution to the economic development of the country. So development indicators, how many businesses have been started, new businesses have been started, how many self-employed customers are open accounts with us, how is their progress, kind of some different indicators also we are monitoring in our bank. So for these kind of things, what the click proposed, the one thing is identify these accounts and check their transactions using artificial intelligence and see whether these self-employment companies are doing fine or not, whether they are in trouble, or what is their current financial situation. So one of the key area is supporting such customers. So the proposed system will be definitely help us to identify the customers or what's happening there. So these artificial intelligence, we can't do it by manual work or whatever. So it definitely needs such advanced tools. So we are in the process of implementing these artificial intelligence plugins to the business intelligence system at the moment.
Yeah, excellent. So a busy and exciting time ahead for you as well then.
Yeah, of course.
So one of the key components of any active intelligence environment, and we see this in society today, is the human capital utilizing the data to drive improvements and innovation in their work processes. A topic we hear more and more about today is how data literacy plays a critical role in society. You know, being able to ensure people understand the data, can analyze it, trust it, and also be willing to start sharing the data across departments and across silos. Breaking down those silos is going to be essential to any success. So question to Nadesh now, how would you rate the data literacy in your organization? And can you touch on any approaches that you have adopted to improve it across your bank?
Yes, one thing is branch level, we will be arrange such dashboards where the system will give various data into the system with the KPIs that we have been set up. So that is one of the sources for the information for this intelligence system.
Yeah,
okay.
Excellent. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Ajanta. And Nadesh, can you touch on your bank's data literacy sort of process? Where you rate your data literacy skills across your organization?
Yes. Now to your question again, Charlie. Now, what is data literacy? I don't want to touch on the data part now. But to go back to basics, it says how you identify data, how you read and write and communicate. So those three elements we are doing at the moment. We have identified what are the data that needs to have to do a data analytic, and then how to write them into programs and how to transform them to what the information that we want, and then how to communicate it to the marketing people or the branches or departments or to people who are making decisions. So first of all, we need to understand what are the databases, that there are sources that needs to build our analytical processes. So and that we have identified. Now we have segregated it to different units. First the digital, then it comes to retail products, and then our cards and all the other personal banking products. So we have segregated according to the data sources that we want, and then how are we going to do analytics and give proper communication or proper output to the decision makers or the branches, or to how to monitor them, as Ajanta rightly says, how the branches to monitor whether their performance or it's a loan customer, whether he's doing good or not. So those are the things that we are planning to to do with the data and to distribute according with the real analytics to managers to make their quick decisions. And then how are we approaching and how are we going to embed this? As you all know, it's a big bank, and any bank, any organization, there are challenges to data. When it comes to especially data inputs, like our branch, a bank like us, we have about 270 branches where people all over the world with different knowledge levels, different experience, recently recruited people. So the main challenge is the data, the garbage data. So if you, as you all know, if you put garbage in, it will garbage out. So one of the major challenges that we are having is like to have the clean data, the pure, how the clear data it is, the more in output that you get, like to make real and correct decisions. For that, so when in the process of data processing, you will find a lot of vendors who are doing this data analytics, but most of the things, I think all the other panel speakers will agree with me, Asani, Gaurav, when they come up with a lot of rosy things that say, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that, and all those things. But there's most of the data, the tools that they don't offer is, now we are in a space where we have garbage data or whatever it is, and not clean data. So how to transform that data into clean data where we can get the proper outcome, where to make real good decisions. Like Gaurav says, they have been doing it. Now, initially, Gaurav also must have these challenges. But initially, when the process goes on, now no lot of tools in the market at the moment, especially in Sri Lanka, in India, sometimes there are tools, but they don't show us how to bridge with the actual scenario and to how to get into the where they are showing us and where we want. So when if this data saying, okay, they should have to say, okay, this data we want this, and this percentage of data you have these problems. Likewise,
if I may just interject, maybe I can advise something. So whenever we encounter such scenarios where we need to take certain decisions based on data, and we realize that somebody's pitching it to us saying they can do magic for us, the first thing we ask them is to tell us what kind of data you would need from us, in what level of purity you need it from us to give us an optimal output, right? So that preparation of the data is what we do upfront, and not based on once a project starts, right? So that gives us a bandwidth to ensure that the right amount of data is there with us at a right level of purity, and then only we initiate any discussion with the vendor, right? So that gives us a time frame, and that gives us also a target to improve our data quality, right? So that helps. And on the other side, what we also do is that once we have gone on to the basic BI journey, where now we understand what information is clearly coming out, then we start looking into what better we can do with the data. So now, for example, we also have few banks and the financial institutions under our umbrella. So we have literally gone to the use of data sciences to say, let's say if the customer is walking in any of the branches, do we see the customer in the same fashion across the board? We do not depend on the humans to say, I think this customer is credit worthy or I think he's not. And we are not relying just on the CRIB data for that matter. We use CRIB data as just one of the input parameters for us to say what CRIB is telling the score of the customer is. But then we input a lot of other data like what does the customer want? Where is he coming from? What has been his income or the associated families, extended families income? Is he coming from an area which is more in the default? We combine a lot of these parameters to essentially give a much better credit scoring for a customer, which helps us in saying whether we can give a little more to this customer at the same level which other people cannot afford to give. Or we feel that he's a risky customer, we should not give him more than this, right? So I think what probably you might have to go through also is that one, what is the value which you want to give to the business from the digital perspective, but also thinking around if you have to reach to that level, what is the data which you require upfront? Because at least the data gathering journey should start as soon as possible. If you don't have enough history, you can't do a lot of things, right? So that's just my 2 cents, because we have done a lot of work into this side also.
It's spot on, Gaurav. That's the thing I am saying right now. That is what we were experiencing with our traditional, our main the system with that and the Excel. That is what we were finding difficult. Now at the moment, to like what Charlie's question is, what are the embedded that good practices we have brought into the system to have pure data. So for that, even we have our own department, separate section that need look into the data, where, as I told you, right, most of the 270 branches where they input the information, like you said, the customer information, where what's the customer's credit area, customer's industry, all those things are now being screened and been filtered through one department. So that is what I tell now. When those are all manual work, but still to get a good outcome, you need to have that filtering part. Once the filtering and you get the good data out of the through a system, then definitely you will get good data to make a good, profitable, and very successful decisions. So for that, that's why I'm telling you, we need the support of our support departments, IT, and also like tools like Click. That's why I'm telling you, they already like there are a lot of tools in the market. They offer rosy pictures where you can do this, but still for all to do those things, you need to have proper cleansed data. So with that now, so as I explained to you earlier, yes, now we have to have embedded practices and good practices in our organization, and then have a clear data to amalgamate most of our systems that we have in our bank, and then to have a full 360 view of the customers, where we can make good decisions and even the strategic moves towards the customers to identify the customer segments and make good decisions with data analytics.
Yeah, excellent. And I think that's an important point there you mentioned around, making sure the right data is inputted the first time. Having staff buy in and understand the importance of data quality right at the entry point is critical, because that's what's going to inform your decisions down the line and going to impact the success of the organization, the strategy, etc. And one of the things from my my own experience, as I mentioned at the start, I used to be a customer of Click before I joined, and my chief executive was always, her biggest pain point at the start was she would ask, in an executive meeting, she would ask the same question. 5 people would go off and come back with 5 different answers because we were using different data and different systems, etc. So she made a process. She wanted a single source of truth. Everyone understood what the requirements were of data input, data quality, etc. And she made it like a non-punitive process. So just because the data is showing one thing, it doesn't mean you're going to get slapped over the wrist and saying you've done a bad job. It's really about identifying the gaps in your processes, using the data to then drive improvements and efficiencies in those practices, using the data then to turn around that maybe deteriorating performance or poor performance or that gap in performance. So using it in a positive way. So I think that's what you were getting on there as well, Nadesh, which is great. Just now to Azane, we've kept you fairly quiet for the last 10 or so minutes, but if you just want to touch on your approach to data literacy across the organization, and if there's been anything that you could comment on shifting to a data first culture. You mentioned you've got a number of applications, over 35 applications. Seems like it's embedded, data is embedded across the organization. What was that journey shifting, getting people to trust the data?
Okay, so if you look at our digital transformation journey, I mean, it is a journey. It doesn't start, you can't get anything done in a jiffy. So we started, say, 6-7 years ago, where the first thing to put in place was a robust ERP. Before we could put an ERP in place, we had about 5-6 legacy systems, which had a lot of inaccuracy with the data that was being provided and mismatches with the data. So first was to stabilize that. And then basically we took all of this information, put it onto one platform, and then we started generating the insights through the dashboards. So if you look at the journey, some of the key things that looking back that I could communicate would be, first of all, what we did was we created an internal unit within the ICT team, a business analyst unit, where basically they used to champion between the business users and ICT. And they were taken from varied backgrounds, from manufacturing, from operations, but they were trained in ICT and then given that ownership to take those dashboards forward. So that was one key process that we did. Also, another challenge that we saw is, especially when you're spread across a large area and you have varying levels of people accessing and inputting the data, it was required that even though we trained, so the first part of it was to train them and see whether they would come up to a certain standard. Then what we did was we assessed them. So for each module, for each this thing, there were assessments given, and they were seen whether they were capable of getting through that. And then entering proper structured data, but then some of them couldn't. And also there was, I mean, in any culture, you have that loyalty towards the department heads. Okay, so what happens is data generally is controlled by the department heads, which is something, I don't know, it's unique to Sri Lanka, but at least this Asian region. I think Gaurav is laughing, he probably understands that. So how do you break that? So the way we broke that is we created an independent unit called a data set unit. We call them, we gave them a higher status, we call them information officers. Okay, and we created an independent reporting line for that team. So what happened was the information flow, even though they sit in departments and they actually enter data in, their loyalty is not to the department head. They have a reporting line which is outside and which is centrally controlled. So what we figured out there was gradually, by introducing more and more of them, the information started becoming very independent. Because I 100% agree with the other gentleman, Nidesh. I think he said garbage in, garbage out, and how you get that structured data into the whole process. So that was a key factor and one of the biggest challenges that we faced. So once we stabilized it and once we had the BA team interacting with the departments, we actually got departmental super users who actually champion the process within those departments, within those locations. Okay, and they became the torch bearers per se, who used to take this forward and then drive it to that next level. So if you look at the products, I think we started off with ClickView and now we're gradually moving to ClickSense. I think since we're on the topic of the whole culture and how to change it, what Gaurav said, 100% agree with him. You have to have sponsorship from the senior level, from the board level, all the way down. At certain points, I think it was driven so forcefully that if you don't show your data in a BI tool or you bring some Excel or something like that, you're dismissed from the meeting. So, I mean, we had to go to certain radical measures to make sure that it was driven. I know Gaurav was being a little more politically correct, but that was actually how we had to push it through at certain instances. So I think some of the challenges, I think even for Click is, especially with this active intelligence, now moving from ClickView to ClickSense, you're coming one step further. It is moving into getting departmental users to start doing the analytics. So that part of it, yes, some to a certain extent there is a little bit of resistance from the users. They are saying, okay, we are not used to this, we're used to the Excels, this is what we want, this is what we need. So it is a cultural change as well, and it's a mindset. So basically the BI, it's a journey. So to change this journey, you need to change the culture. You need to make sure that it's driven based on data. And that's how you need to take it. I think one of the key challenges that we faced is sometimes the data reloads. I don't know the Gaurav or any of the others have faced this. So I think that is something that you guys need to work on. At least the BI part of it is how fast you can reload the data, especially with large data sets. It takes quite a bit of time, and then we have this thing. So if you want action immediately and active intelligence, that is something I think it's a key challenge that we need to work on and see how we can make that work. But I think we're getting there. So active intelligence is something that we can look forward to, even when it comes to our production flows. We're looking at IoT. So the IoT devices are directly going to get connected to like we are using a couple of experiments. We are trying RFID tags and similar devices to try to get the data in straight into the system. From there, for it to become going to the BI tool and then become actionable, it's a journey. So it requires quite a few parts to get to that point. So it's very challenging, and it's something I think very interesting, and it's we can really look forward to getting to that point, but it's not as easy as it is done, especially in the manufacturing space, where we are not machine centric, we are people centric for the apparel industry. So that again is a challenge that we have. But overall, coming back to the culture thing, has to be from the top. There has to be that buy-in. It has to be driven. Sometimes if it is difficult, you need to change or you need to shift into some radical solutions to make sure that it's driven. And that's, I think, would be your success.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for those insights. Gaurav, just continuing on the theme of data literacy and data first culture, you seem very experienced and very ingrained in the journey across Valley of L1. Are there any learnings that you've looked back now and think, oh, maybe we could have pivoted and done things differently, or have you made any sort of adjustments to certain approaches?
So normally what I would think is that wherever you feel a resistance in the organizations where people are not supporting a change, right? There, like Azin also was referring that, there's a particular scenarios where the departments are holding on to data, where they think that data is their property, right? I think those are the silos you need to break absolutely across. And this you would find a lot in a lot of very traditional organizations which have been for decades in the country. And there, the dependence is heavily tilted towards people. I think that's the area which essentially blocks the growth of an organization, because unless you have the mindset change in those people, which if they are sitting at the top, it's all the more difficult to get the change done in the organization. I think that's where you need to kind of shake the whole root to make it work, right? That's where we have seen that a push right from the level which could actually push those leaders is what is needed to really shake them and say that this will not work. You need to move on from this, what it is. And then if that change happens, then the whole organization goes into that direction. And that's where is the most crucial tipping point for that organization. Because suddenly you move away from holding the data to yourself to making the data as a democratic data, which is available to everyone. And then anyone can have a visibility of it to say what's going on really. So just to give you an example, we, at the group level, we have the visibility of the data across most of our organizations, whatever is going on a day-to-day basis with them. We don't ask them that, please give us this data. We have the access to their data points to say, we know what's going on, we know what is probably troubling you, and we figure out a proactive way of helping them. So that gives them the comfort saying that data is helping them rather than you using data as always a whipping lash. You are saying that here is the data, we understand an issue, and here is a solution for you. Why don't you take it up and then move forward, right? So I think that's where the whole thing has to change. If there are younger organizations where the leaders are much more dynamic, younger, they embrace it very quickly. Where the organizations have become very old, there you really need to be a force to shake the entire tree with the roots, and then it helps. So I think there are different ways of dealing, but it has worked for us.
Excellent. We're almost up on our time, which has been great. The conversation has been amazing and really insightful. So now just a final question to all the panelists. What is one piece of practical advice you would give to an organization just starting out on their data analytics journey? I'll go to Ajantha first, please, if you can respond to that. Okay, Ajantha might be off at the moment. Nadesh, do you want to take over? Do you want to ask what is one piece of practical advice you would give to any organization?
Yes, as correctly Gaurav says, first thing you need to have the shift from the top. The top needs to agree that we are going towards our decision-making processes and all things that our processes improvements through data, not the historical data. It's like that we have been doing, or any company must have been doing with Excel or whatever it is. So, but with the data, with the company starting off to do with their first of all, they need to have the blessings from the top. Then after that, like I said, you need to have the proper data. They need to have clean data, or if it is not, then if you are trying to buy a tool or a BI tool or get somebody expert opinions, you need to ask them for me to go there, what the data quality should be, what are the data that has to have the essential things that in the data what needs to be. If you don't have that, don't start your journey. First go back, as Azani told, that with the legacy systems there can be a lot of problems. First of all, make sure that you have a good ERP or a good system where the data is proper and clean. Then the third one is, then you should visualize what your requirement. You should not like what we were doing. You should not taking decisions with the tool also. What 1 year back ago, what has happened and what are we going to do? No, it should not be the way. With the data, you should know how to predict. That means you should have the proper human resource also, intelligent people and people who are in the market that knows what the market is happening, with those right tools, with the right tool and with the right human resource, with the knowledge. With this startup, you can, even a small company can start, and then as the other panels, especially Gaurav says, you can go a long way with data. And when along the way, once the data is there, proper data, and you do make proper missions and proper set of data, then you can, along the journey, you can couple with AI and go towards the future and grow your business.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Azane, do you have any thoughts? What's one piece of practical advice you would give to any organization starting on their data analytics journey?
Okay, so there's no quick fix. Okay, it takes time to get data for all the way from the shop floor all the way up to the boardroom to make a strategic decision. It takes time, but the key things that you need to fix are people, process, and systems. And then basically you would be able to generate, or you would be able to go to active intelligence and then move towards that direction. Okay. And finally, my last piece of advice is enjoy the journey.
Very good. Gaurav, over to you. Your one piece of advice.
Right. I think for whatever I've seen and experienced, the most important need for the organization, whoever started on the journey, it is that business should take the ownership of the change. It should not be an IT project. It should always be a business project. If IT becomes the owner, then things generally don't work. You need to have a business ownership and a sponsorship. You need to have a very strong business project manager who can drive the business to essentially give all the requirements and the feedbacks in time. And then IT should just be an enabler. It should not take any further role beyond being an enabler. Because if you do that, you are doomed already, right? So that's what I agree with you, Gaurav. 100% agree with you. That's what I think is the most crucial point we have given to almost all the businesses, that if you are saying IT has to lead it, then don't start it. If you are ready to commit your own resources and your time, then do it, else forget it. Right. So I think that's what it is.
Just adding to that, Gaurav, I think it's that whole principle of creating the departmental champions. So you create a departmental champion who becomes the torchbearer. 100%.
Right. And then there should be a business side, project manager always assigned who can coordinate across multiple functions of the business. Otherwise, asking an IT guy to go around and run around to get things done doesn't work. Right. So I think I've seen it enough now, and we make it a point to show that you please get a good, solid project manager from the business. Otherwise, don't do it.
That's great. And lastly, Ajantha, do you have any a practical piece of advice for anyone that's going to start their journey?
Yeah. I was listening to all the comments. What they say is absolutely correct. We all have to start, like my experience in the government sector, we have to start very small, because if we have started with very complex ones, it can be not work very well, because data and analytics means the things will be very transparent afterwards. In some instances, some people doesn't like this transparent array. So therefore, we have to start with very small, and we have to bring the people into that one, and gradually we have to enhance the systems. Then it's easy for us to continue that one. Otherwise, if you start the full scale ones, the complexity and all these things matters, and it might stop on the way. So like the private sector organizations, they are very keen on the efficiency improvement and so on. The government sector is not that they are not efficient, but they are not that easy to do things in the government sector. So we have to we have to start with small, and we have to gradually develop the things. I really appreciate the Gaurav what said. The IT people should not lead that one, because non-IT people oppose it. It's happening in many projects. So very good business leaders has to start that one. And the other thing is what others said, the leadership placings is very important. They should understand these things, and they should support it, and they should not, when they say some bad things, if they take tough action in the first stages, people won't give the real data. When the incorrect data comes, the information is wrong. So we have to gradually build up the culture of this data analytics use in the government sector. So I really appreciate the others what they said, and I totally endorse it. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank you. So
I think that, Charlie, once more, sorry.
Yes, of course.
Just 2 words now. About 1 or 2 years ago, this data analytics is for any organization, even Gaurav has started it, but I'm saying it in Sri Lankan context, it's a good to have tool. Now it is not a good to have tool, it's a must to have tool.
Must have,
yeah.
Yeah, excellent. It's great, and I think it's come across in a lot of the conversation today in your responses. About how important and critical it is as a driver for business and business operations and success. And I think some of the key themes that I picked out today was, the importance of executive sponsorship, making sure there's a human-centered approach to it all. So don't forget the staff and the users across the organization, the drivers, the people that are going to understand and adopt and use the data to drive change. I think the emergence of emerging technologies is really exciting. I think for all of your organizations, you touched on being at one stage of the cycle of some sort. You spoke about, rear view, mirror views of your data, and how you're looking at now more proactive and predictive views, and you're looking at IoT data in Zane's example. So I think it's really great that you're looking at those new emerging technologies. And I think the thing that stood out for me was Zane's last comment there, is having fun along the journey, embracing the journey, the challenge they come up with. They come up with a strategy, communicate that clearly across your organization, and get support and run with it, and get those snowballs, start small, incrementally big, and build big wins across the organization and get support that way. So thank you all for your valuable contributions and your time this afternoon. That wraps up our panel discussion today. I really hope that you gained something from your participation, and I look forward to watching your data and analytics journeys with interest. So cheers and thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, bye.
Thank you, speakers, for such a prolific session. It was a pleasure hearing all of you on this important topic.
Thank you very much, everybody.
This session gave our participants some really enriching insights today. So thank you again. I would also like to thank the audience for being a part of this significant session. Hope to see you soon in our next sessions. Have a good day and stay safe.